Whoopi once again has been caught being even dumber than we thought. Watch as she claims blacks in America have it worse than women in Iran. Roll it, Phyllis.
Let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Keep hanging black.
When Whoopi Goldberg opened her mouth on The View recently, she probably didn't expect to become the internet's favorite punching bag. But that's exactly what happened when she made a comparison so jaw-droppingly tone-deaf that even her own co-hosts couldn't defend it. What she said about Iran versus America had Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus absolutely losing their minds, and their response was nothing short of brutal. The controversy started during what seemed like a routine discussion on The View. Alyssa Farah Griffin was trying to make a point about human rights in Iran, specifically mentioning how the Iranian regime literally throws gay people off buildings and completely disregards basic human rights. Simple enough, right? Well, that's when Whoopi decided to drop her verbal atomic bomb. She basically said that comparing Iran's brutality to America wasn't fair because, according to her twisted logic, black Americans have it just as bad or worse than people living under Iran's oppressive regime.
Girls, girls, girls. Whoopi, you know you're on the very wrong side of history even when the fake Republican disagrees with you. I haven't seen Whoopi wave her fingers like that since someone offered her a salad. But apparently that's a technique for summoning the demon associated with talking out of your ass. Even Alyssa couldn't tolerate the examples Whoopi made out of thin air, or, since it's Whoopi, fat air. Kat, The View, Whoopi Goldberg insisted that life in the U.S. is just as brutal as living in Iran. Well, in that case, lady, from now on, please cover your face.
Let that sink in for a moment. Whoopi Goldberg, sitting comfortably in her multi-million-dollar chair on national television, seriously argued that life for black Americans is comparable to living under a regime that executes people for their sexual orientation and stones women for showing their hair. The woman who's made millions off her career in entertainment actually had the audacity to suggest that America is just as brutal as a theocratic dictatorship. Greg Gutfeld wasted absolutely no time tearing this argument apart. His response was surgical in its precision and devastating in its delivery. He pointed out the sheer insanity of Whoopi's comparison by highlighting something painfully obvious. If life in America was truly like Iran for black people, she wouldn't be sitting there interrupting people on live television while getting paid millions of dollars. In Iran, women can't even speak publicly without risking severe punishment, let alone interrupt male guests on a talk show. Gutfeld's trademark sarcasm was in full display as he noted the irony of someone claiming oppression while literally being one of the most privileged people in the country. He suggested that if Whoopi truly believed her comparison, then maybe she should start covering her face like women are forced to do in Iran. The burn was so perfectly crafted that it left no room for comeback.
Andre, first of all, I'd just like to say that for the many people that I have tied to cars, I never asked them about their sexuality. Never once.
And that's very progressive of you.
Yes, happy Pride Month. Listen, I love... Whoopi's right. I mean, it's been rough for us. I mean, you saw what just happened to me in the last segment. I'm trying to talk, and all the white people are like, "Oh, it's Tyrus. I can make a phone call." You know? And it's...
How did that make you feel?
I felt very black.
Did you feel black?
Yeah,
But Gutfeld wasn't done. He systematically dismantled every aspect of Whoopi's argument, pointing out that her ability to make such outrageous statements without facing any real consequences actually proves how free America really is. In Iran, criticizing the government or making controversial statements would result in imprisonment or worse. Yet here's Whoopi facing nothing more than some Twitter backlash for her ridiculous hot take. That's when Tyrus stepped into the ring, and brother, he brought the heavy artillery. Tyrus has this unique ability to combine common sense with devastating wit, and he used both weapons to absolutely demolish Whoopi's position. He started by pointing out the obvious that Whoopi's very existence as a successful black woman on national television completely contradicts her own argument. Tyrus emphasized how in Iran, according to Whoopi's own logic about black people's people's treatment in America, her interrupting and speaking publicly would have led to stoning. The man didn't hold back, pointing out that only in America can a black person sit on a TV show making millions of dollars and have the audacity to claim they're living under conditions similar to one of the world's most oppressive regimes. The wrestling champion turned political commentator then delivered what might have been the knockout blow of the entire segment. He talked about how it's uniquely American for someone to have the freedom to criticize their own country so harshly while simultaneously benefiting from all the opportunities that same country provides. Tyrus basically called out the absurd privilege of being able to claim oppression while living in luxury.
He gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, if it wasn't for her asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind, I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing.
Very black.
Did you feel black?
Yeah. It's word, Tyrus. Malice just started snapping
By the way,
his fingers for
thank
you.
God black people don't do that in audiences.
Yes, yeah. No, we just talk the whole time and tell you how to do your show better. Oh, that's what I get paid to do. But it's only in America can a black person sit on a TV show getting paid millions and millions of dollars to have the floor and can say, it can interrupt people because she interrupted her.
Yeah.
And if according to her, life was like in Iran, it was for black people, her interrupting and speaking in public would have led to a stoning.
Yeah.
What made Tyrus's response even more powerful was how he connected it to broader issues of accountability and perspective. He pointed out that Whoopi's comments weren't just ignorant, they were insulting to people actually suffering under real oppression in places like Iran. While she's complaining about America from her comfortable studio, real people are dying for basic freedoms she takes for granted every single day. Let's talk about what life in Iran is actually like, because apparently someone needs to educate Whoopi about reality. In Iran, women can't attend sporting events, can't travel without male permission, and face imprisonment for removing their hijabs. Gay people face execution. Political dissidents disappear. Journalists are tortured. Religious minorities are persecuted. This isn't ancient history. This is happening right now, today in 2025. Meanwhile, in America, Whoopi Goldberg can go on national television, make completely false and inflammatory statements, and face absolutely zero legal consequences. She won't be arrested, tortured, or executed. The worst thing that will happen to her is some people will criticize her on social media, and maybe her ratings will drop a bit. That's the difference between living in a free country and living under actual oppression. The reaction to Whoopi's comments was swift and brutal. Social media absolutely exploded with criticism, not just from conservatives but from people across the political spectrum who recognized how tone-deaf and historically ignorant her comparison was. Iranian dissidents living in exile particularly condemned her statements, pointing out that she was minimizing their real suffering under an actual oppressive regime.
About The View. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of about The View. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of
What was particularly telling was how The View tried to handle the fallout. Instead of directly addressing how problematic Whoopi's comments were, they seemed to go into damage control mode. Other hosts tried to steer the conversation away from her statements, and there was this awkward energy where everyone knew she had crossed a line, but nobody wanted to directly call her out on it. The controversy even reached Iranian activists and human rights organizations, who expressed outrage at Whoopi's casual dismissal of their struggles. These are people who have lost family members to the regime, who have fled their homeland to escape persecution, and who dedicate their lives to fighting for basic human rights. To have a privileged American celebrity suggest that her experience is comparable to their actual oppression was deeply offensive. But here's where Gutfeld and Tyrus's response becomes even more significant. They weren't just criticizing one dumb comment, they were exposing a broader problem with how some people in mainstream media approach discussions about America. This tendency to always portray America in the worst possible light, even when making completely inappropriate comparisons to actual dictatorships, reveals a dangerous disconnect from reality. Gutfeld pointed out that this kind of rhetoric isn't just wrong, it's actively harmful. When you minimize real oppression by comparing it to life in free countries, you're essentially giving cover to actual dictatorships and making it harder for people fighting real oppression to be taken seriously. It's the political equivalent of crying wolf, and it has real consequences for people suffering under genuine tyranny.
You don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. Mm-hmm. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sonny, and was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being attacked. You have to go after the racist people. Be the CEO goes, you know what? I'm not going to allow a woman on my show or man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values.
Tyrus took it a step further by highlighting how this kind of thinking is ultimately counterproductive for the very communities it claims to support. When you constantly portray America as irredeemably oppressive, you're not helping to solve actual problems. You're creating a narrative of hopelessness that discourages real progress and positive change. The most devastating part of their critique was how they exposed the fundamental selfishness of Whoopi's position. Here's someone who has benefited enormously from American opportunities and freedoms, but instead of acknowledging that progress or working constructively to address remaining issues, she chooses to make inflammatory comparisons that serve no purpose other than generating attention and reinforcing her own victim narrative. What made Gutfeld and Tyrus's takedown so effective wasn't just that they were funny, though they absolutely were. It was that they grounded their criticism in facts and logic that Whoopi simply couldn't counter. When you strip away the emotional rhetoric and virtue signaling, her position falls apart completely under even basic scrutiny. The aftermath of this controversy continued to snowball throughout the week. Reports emerged that Whoopi was absent from The View for several days following the backlash, though the official reason given was unrelated to the controversy. However, the timing certainly raised eyebrows, especially given how intense the criticism had become. Conservative media outlets seized on the comments as evidence of the mainstream media's disconnect from reality, while even some liberal commentators struggled to defend Whoopi's position. The controversy became a perfect example of how certain types of political rhetoric have become so extreme that they've lost all connection to actual facts and experiences.
Yeah, that's heroically stupid. Even for The View. What did she think Hitler meant when he said master race? The 100-meter dash at the Berlin Olympics? So for the first time in The View's history, it's not about race. Just some whites exterminating 6 million other whites. So what's the big deal? Her reasoning reminds me of the guy who looks at black-on-black crime and says, that's just them doing what they do. Of course, it's that if that callous person were me or you, we would be canceled faster than a Tinder date with Andrew Cuomo. But thanks to liberal privilege, Whoopi hangs on, which is fine since she apologized, but not before digging an even deeper hole than the one in her head.
Even as dumb as the she just said, that she has an opportunity tomorrow. They won't fire her over that.
No.
She'll have an opportunity tomorrow to come on and fix it. Will she? She won't. But that's the thing about this country. Black, white, gay, straight, short, tall. Everyone's going to get hit with something. But the beauty about this country is there's always an opportunity for you to better yourself. So shame on you, Whoopi. Play the black card somewhere else because it don't work here in America.
To Whoopi Goldberg.
Iranians living under an oppressive regime don't really have it that bad. Despite all the human rights abuses, Iranians might actually have it better than Black Americans.
And it's slow.
But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that.
Okay, and no matter how hard the other hosts tried to reason with Whoopi Goldberg, reminding her of how women are treated in Iran, nothing would stop her from continuing one of the most.
What's particularly infuriating about situations like this is how they distract from legitimate discussions about both domestic issues and international human rights. When someone makes such an absurd comparison, it becomes impossible to have nuanced conversations about real problems, because everyone gets caught up in responding to the most ridiculous statements. Gutfeld and Tyrus understood this perfectly, which is why their response was so effective. They didn't just mock Whoopi's ignorance. They used her comments as a launching pad to discuss broader issues about perspective, privilege, and the responsibility that comes with having a platform. Their criticism served an educational purpose beyond just entertainment. The incident also highlighted something important about accountability in media. While Whoopi faced social media backlash and criticism, she ultimately faced no real consequences for making statements that were factually wrong and potentially harmful. This lack of accountability is part of what allows such rhetoric to continue and escalate. Looking at the bigger picture, this controversy reveals something troubling about how political discourse has evolved in recent years. The constant need for attention and engagement has led some media personalities to make increasingly outrageous statements, even when those statements are completely divorced from reality. It's a race to the bottom that serves no one except those seeking clicks and controversy. But perhaps most importantly, Gutfeld and Tyrus's response demonstrated how effective, straightforward, fact-based criticism can be when dealing with absurd political rhetoric. They didn't need to resort to personal attacks or inflammatory language. They simply pointed out the obvious flaws in Whoopi's logic and let the facts speak for themselves. The contrast between their measured but devastating critique and Whoopi's emotional, fact-free ranting couldn't have been more stark. It showed viewers exactly what the difference looks like between serious commentary and performative outrage designed purely for attention. As this controversy continues to ripple through media circles, it serves as a perfect case study in how not to discuss serious political and social issues. When you prioritize shock value over accuracy and emotional manipulation over logical argument, you end up looking exactly like Whoopi did in this situation, completely out of touch with reality and deserving of the mockery you receive. The lesson here isn't just about one bad take from one media personality. It's about the importance of maintaining perspective, respecting facts, and understanding the difference between legitimate criticism and absurd hyperbole. Gutfeld and Tyrus mastered that lesson, while Whoopi failed it spectacularly, and the contrast couldn't be more clear.